Hello, my name is Josh Robinson here at the University of Portsmouth, and I've got a very special guest with me today. I have James CW. Now, James, I've known you for a little while now, a real creative. Today we're going to hear two of your songs. Can you talk to me a little bit about your songwriting process for these new two songs?
So for me, kind of songwriting comes in ebbs and flows, as I'm sure it does for a lot of people. You can't always be on and ready to create because it just wouldn't work. So what happens for me is normally it's easiest if something has happened in my real life, and then I'll write about that. So for example, these two things were about experiences I went through, which gave me a bit of inspiration and kind of it makes you feel something. And then once you're feeling something, you can kind of let it out and put it down on a page or in a little guitar riff, and then you kind of build it from there. So for me, I started with these two. I started with the words, and then kind of once you got the words, you kind of know the kind of rhythm or the melody you want to go with, and then you kind of figure out the actual music after that. But sometimes you figure out a nice little guitar chord sequence or a riff, and you write words to that. But for these two, it was words first and then music.
So it's a bit different this time, actually coming with the words first and then moving over. That's actually really interesting to know. So how did you first start out with music? What gave you the inspiration to start? Why did you start? Because I know a lot of creatives come and they go, I love music, but where would I start? Where would I first perform? So for yourself, what's your story? How did you start? And kind of your first live performance, how was that?
So I first started with music when I was in year 4, and I started playing the trumpet.
Yeah.
And then my brother played a little bit of the keyboard, but not so much. And then my sister started on the clarinet, and she was 2 years younger. So we were always kind of learning in the house. Mum and Dad weren't musical, but they were very much encouraging us to. Then my sister picked up the piano, and then she would never let me play it, unfortunately, because it was kind of her thing, and it was okay. But all throughout that time, I'd always wanted to play the guitar, and I never got round to it until I finally decided, second year of uni in the summer, I was like, I want to play the guitar. Went out that summer and bought one. I actually got the model up from the friend that I was with, who I'd taken to the guitar shop, and he was like, why are you spending this money on the guitar? But I've still got it 6 years later, and it's been all around the world with me. So I picked that up when I was 19, 20, and then played it ever since. Started on the guitar, on the piano and drums this January.
Yeah.
Bought them. I got a nice room, big room, so I can fit all of my assorted instruments and whatnot in. But yeah, so now... and I'd always been singing as well, because I did a Saturday morning amateur dramatics kind of theatre stuff. My brother and sister also did it. My mum and dad encouraged us to do all kinds of stuff. So, and I'd recorded a song when I was 13 with my sister's piano teacher, and it was "You're Beautiful" by James Blunt. And my voice was so high pitched that we had to transpose it up 2 semitones, which for the James Blunt song is already quite high. I can kind of falsetto it now, but to belt it out was actually quite astonishing. But I sent that to my music teacher in year 7 or 8, and she demanded that I started performing at school concerts.
Amazing.
So I did that one kind of winter concert year 8, and then every kind of winter and summer they'd get me up along with all the other students that would do solos and sing songs and
go for it.
Play the trumpet in the school band and that kind of stuff. So all throughout my life, been musical.
I think a lot of artists will come to that and take inspiration from that, because a lot of people, bedroom artists, they're learning, they've written some bits, but that first performance is a bit of a roadblock for them. And I always say to artists, if you're enjoying it on stage, I'm going to enjoy watching it 9 times out of 10. And I think with live music, it is about making mistakes. I mean, have you had any real blinders, any shockers that you think?
Oh yeah, I mean, I make mistakes in every single time I perform. So, and anybody who says they don't is lying. But the key is just keep going.
Yeah.
Because I've been to thousands, probably not thousands, but you get the picture of open mics all over the UK, in America, Europe, and whatnot. And the worst thing that someone can do if they make a mistake is just stop. Because then everybody realises you've made a mistake. Whereas if you get the words wrong, you just do the other line and then keep going, and nobody's none the wiser. So just keep going. Well,
one of my favourite ever live music moments, a band, the equipment just stops. So they just went a cappella, and it was really the best bit of the whole gig was that kind of thing. Talk to me about the different cultures. So obviously you've played all over. Do you notice kind of different trends in different cities, different areas that you go? People respond to your music differently?
So I'm kind of slightly biased towards, well, at this point, against where I grew up because I got so bored of it. So I'm from the Midlands originally.
Yeah.
I think that the kind of Birmingham scene is on the up now, but like when I was there, it was kind of just almost like a dead zone somehow, which is really kind of disappointing. But spent time in both Derby and Manchester, which I think are really, really cool music scenes. I really enjoyed them. And then obviously moved to London about a year and a bit ago, and that has been brilliant because there's so many. I mean, in Derby, Manchester, Birmingham, there's loads.
Yeah.
In London, it makes it look like there's nobody compared to there because there's so many everywhere. Like I used to go to one open mic in Battersea about 20 minutes away, and when I first went there, they said get there for 6:30 to sign up. I got there at 6 o'clock and there were already 15 people signed up. And it's just...
It's the scale of London,
scale,
though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just fantastic. I love it.
You can't complain with that music scene there. So, James, talk to me about your influences. If people are listening to kind of your music, where do you get your inspiration from? If they liked that big artist, they'd probably quite like yours. Who would come under that realm?
Yeah, so I try to avoid the comparison being kind of white and ginger, but if people like Ed Sheeran, they'd probably like it. As I said, I don't like to do... It's too stereotypical. But also stuff like James Bay, a bit kind of Charlie Puth, kind of Shawn Mendes, that kind of area. Just kind of your indie pop, kind of singer-songwriter-y kind of vibe.
When I've seen you, the comparison I would have used was James Bay. That's the one that really kind of I can kind of see. Out of all the people that you've seen live, who's been the best live performance in your opinion?
Best live performance that I think based on the skill, like kind of the sheer scale and sheer show that he put on, this is going back like 10 years. So I was at V Festival in 2013. So the supporting act was Ed Sheeran. And by himself with a loop pedal, a microphone and guitar, created his whole album. But the one afterwards, and I wasn't even that big a fan. I'm still not a massive fan, but because of the actual performance and the spectacle, the headline act for that was Justin Timberlake.
Wow.
And like the performance, because they had like an orchestra, pyrotechnics, dancers, it was really quite spectacular. But I also in January last year, or this year, I think this year, went to Cardiff to see the 1975 on their very best tour.
Yeah.
And again, I wasn't really a fan, but I would say that I would be a fan now because of how good the show was.
It's incredible, isn't it? I think the one thing that I've done over the years is that the music's really important, obviously, but actually when I've been to these kind of artists and gigs and big shows and you go to sound check or you're there afterwards, actually the lighting, the effects, the background, the way they put that show on will make it sound better. And but when they first said that, I went, no, it won't, no, it won't. And they were doing a sound check. I think it was for Jamie T at the time. And they went, Josh, look, watch this. And they were doing loads of bits with it. And I went, wow. Like visually, it does take an input on that when moving up the levels. Well, James, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. I'm really excited to hear your new 2 songs and go from there.
Tranquility when you're with me will last forevermore. I hope that you don't